This video is going to cover the Chapter 5 corridor modeling of Road 1 for Open Roads Designer. We're going to do the 5.9 group exercise, creating a corridor for Ramp 4. So I'm going to highlight Word and then hit the Control key over that Ramp 4 exercise, which brings me down to the exercise itself. So, first step is within the J5P3181 Data 5 folder, we're going to open up the civil geometry. And then we're going to create a new file for our corridors for ramp 4. And we'll name that corridors underscore ramp-4 underscore J5P3181.dgn. And we'll also use a 2D seed file. So let's do that. So I've got the civil geometry file opened up. I need to go to the file new. And then in here, I'm going to change the name. But I'm going to copy the name off of my Word document, which makes it just a little bit easier to get this stuff done. So Control C, and I will paste into the naming field. And it was a MODOT 2D file. This is what I want. It defaults to it. I'll hit OK to open up my brand new blank file. And again, it takes a little bit of time with the ProjectWise and ProjectWise check-in box. So the corridor is going to contain all our template drops for the project. And in this ramp 4, we're going to have a couple template drops. We're going to have one that's a curb and gutter for a certain distance, and then we're going to go another specific distance of shoulder. And that's going to be this area right down where ramp 4 is. So I'm going to check in my file of the civil geometry that I had open. And that brings me to a blank file. So going back to my instructions, the third step is we need to open the coordinate system, and that is under the reality modeling workflow. And then we'll go to geographic, and then we're going to pick from library. So let's do that. Back in MicroStation, my workflow is at Open Roads Modeling. I want to hit the pull down, change that to reality modeling, and then I'm going to go all the way to the right where it says coordinate system. I'm at the home tab, coordinate system. This is the dialog we want, and then we want to use from library. Let's go back and make sure. Yes, step 4 says from library, and we're going to look for the NAD83 2011 folder, which is the modified geographic coordinate system. So we'll come over, we'll do from library, and then we're going to open up, let's open it up a little more here so we can see it. We want this modified geographic coordinate system NAD83 2011. So we'll hit the plus sign to open them up, give us our options. The next that was step 1 here of step 5. Step 2 is to pick the Central District Miller 2011. So if I come over here, down to Miller, and I select it, gives me my coordinate system all on the right. It's all ready to go. And then the last step of this is, step number 3, is to hit the OK button to apply it, and then we'll verify the coordinate system. Okay, so that's picked. I'll hit OK. The dialog has now been filled out with the Central District Miller 2011 from the NAD83 2011 Missouri State Plains Central Zone US feet, US foot. We're finished with the coordinate system, so we can simply just close this out. It's been assigned to this design file, and we're good to go. And we'll go back to our manual. We verified it perfectly. We're on step 7. We're going to reference in the following files. We need our terrain file, and we need our civil geometry. And when we bring our terrain file in, step 8 is going to have us activate that terrain model. So, back in MicroStation, I'm going to change my workflow to Open Roads Modeling. That's the workflow that we'll use for most of our Road 1 stuff. Make sure I'm at the Home tab. I'm going to go to the Attach Tools button. That's going to bring up our reference dialog. I'll do a tools, attach. And what I'm looking for is to make sure I'm in my data 5 folder. I am, so I'm going to select the terrain, civil geometry. I'm holding the control key. I'll add them into the selected documents box, and then I'll hit OK. Then the next step is, when we get to this dialog, we want to make sure that nesting depth is 0 on each one of these dialogs, and go with the defaults, and then hit Fit View. You should see the project in the background, or at least you're going to see your terrain and then your civil geometry. So I'm going to close the reference dialog, and that other step was to make sure that our surface, our terrain, is active. And what this does for us is it ensures that when we place templates out here that have in conditions, meaning it has a fill slope or back slopes or ditches or anything, that they solve. Any kind of in condition will go out and seek ground and solve. If not, if this is not active, what you'll do is you'll drop some templates in here. It'll be in this Ramp 4 area. You'll drop a template in your corridor here, and all you'll see is the pavement and shoulders or curb and gutter or whatever. You won't see any in conditions. So you won't see any green grassy areas at all. You'll just see the pavement. Okay, so let's alt tab over, back to my dialog. We did, or to my Word document, we did step number 8. Now we're on step number 9, setting up the project template library. From the Corridors tab, we want to use the Create Template. Okay, so we're going to go to the Corridors tab of the Open Roads Modeling Workflow, and then we're going to pick the Create Template box. Okay, so I'm at home. I'll slide down to the Corridors tab, and then I want to hit this pull down to get my Create Template, or I can pick the icon that's above. Well, either way, we're going to open up this Create Template. Okay, when I open it up for the first time, you can see that it goes out to our mo.itl. So let's go back into the Word document. And it says what we need to do is open up our ITL, which is located under a data 5 folder. And then we're going to expand 3181 and then Ramp 4. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that Create Template dialog. And in here I'm going to do a file, open, and I want to go to my data 5. So if it's not there, you want to drill down into your data 5 folder, and we're looking for it automatically jumps to an ITL. So we're looking for that one right there. That's the job ITL in data 5. It's J5P3181.itl. And we'll go ahead and open that. And then we want to open up our job folder, which is this one, J5P3181, and then our Ramp 4 folder, which has the 2 types of template drops that we're going to use. So we went over templates in chapter 4, so this is going to take this stuff and put it together on your project in a corridor. So the first one I'll look at is this curb and gutter, and to look at it, you just simply double click on it and it becomes the active template. You can tell up here current template that we're working with is the one with the curb and gutter. It's in our edit window, and I can turn off the display point names right now so you can kind of get a good look at it. So what we have here is we've got a retaining wall. We got curb and gutter in here, and we've got some in conditions. And we might want to test these in conditions. Let's just see what this thing says here. So in step 12 it says review the Road 1 templates by double clicking the name in the list. Turn the display point names on or off, and select test to verify the in condition functionality. Okay, so that's kind of what we're doing. So in this dialog, I'm going to come down to the test button on this curb and gutter one that I have active, and I'm going to look at it. I like to zoom out a little bit. And the way this works is it takes and places your backbone to your project, your template out here, and you don't see any kind of end-condition solving or anything yet. What you need to do is come over here and look at your available targets. And this could change depending on how many surfaces you have out there that you want to target. We only have one because we have that terrain, that active terrain in the background that we activated. If it wasn't there, if it wasn't active, you wouldn't see it. But right now we have active terrain. And this use surface slope is set at 0, meaning that when I place a slope out here, it'll be straight across. You can't give it a percentage of 2% or 4%, whatever you want to change it to look at it. And you give it minuses as well. And it will change the slope whatever direction that you change it. So you can see what it looks like. Next thing that we can do is to hit this draw button and come out on our screen. You can see now there's that surface I was talking about. Go straight across, and you can change that slope however you want. I'm going to leave it at 0 for this. But you also can see that my ditch is solving on the right, and you'll see that this little slope on the left is also solving. Now when we get below this ditch, you'll see what it does. It jumps into a fill slope on that right. And that's what we want it to do. This template looks like it's set up pretty good. The left side, we're tying into another corridor over there, and we want that slope just to go to ground right where it's at. Okay? So we're good to go on this. I'll go ahead and close it. And then let's look at the shoulders template. Now if you single click on it, it's in the preview window, as we learned in the last chapter. But we need to double click and open it up and make it the edit template. So now you can see, instead of curb and gutter out here, we have shoulders. Shoulders here and there. And if we test it, using that active terrain and hit and draw, again, our ditch is solving perfectly, and you see that little bitty slope over here. And then when you go below it, the fill slope kicks in. So it looks like the templates are good to go on what we need. So if we're satisfied with them, we'll go ahead and hit close. Okay. And then we'll go to back to our manual. Now we're going to drop a corridor in there, okay? And when you create that corridor, you needed template drops. Template drops look good. So we're going to go out and we're going to use our ramp 4 alignment to create a corridor. Now you can do this a couple ways. You can pick it from the icon, which is under the Open Roads Modeling Workflow Corridors tab, and then back to New Corridor. Or you can get it from the Heads Up Context Sensitive pop-up menu. So all you have to do there is select ramp 4 to get it, and then get the heads-up display and select it. So let's go do that. So I'm going to go to ramp 4. You can hover over it and see it's ramp 4. Sometimes these projects get busy. You want to make sure you get the right one. So we're going to do ramp 4. Hover over it. We're going to go to that third icon, which is Create Corridor. We're going to select it. Now it's got a question here. Locate the profile. So if we had a profile window open, we can pick it. Or reset for the active profile. When I hovered over it, it showed me that there is an active profile. It says ramp 4 proposed. So we're just going to go out and right click and use that active profile that goes along with that alignment. When you do that, it moves on to the next part of the tool, which is let's name the corridor. Now pick the corridor name from the feature or from the alignment of ramp 4. We want ramp 4, so we'll go ahead and accept that. You'll see it places a green shape out here, meaning your corridor's been created, but now it's progressed to the next part of the tool, which is asking us for a template drop, and which one do we want to use. So I'm going to go back into my manual, and for the first part of this, ramp 4, data point. Now we're going to create a template drop, so we're going to use our Alt down or pick the dialog box, and we're going to go to our ramp 4 folders, and we're going to pick ramp 4 pavement with curb and gutter template. And we're going to go from a start station of the beginning, and we're going to end it at 2 + 0, 0. Okay, so let's go back and do some of that. We want to do the Alt down key. That brings up our pick template box. We're going to navigate down to our job folder, ramp 4 folder, and it wanted us to use the curb and gutter for a distance. So we'll pick that one. It gives us a preview of what that template looks like, and that's just picked right out of our template library that we just went and looked at, and we'll hit OK. And then we picked OK, but it doesn't place it. It's on our cursor, and we have to accept that template that we picked. So I'll left click. Now it wants to know our start and stop station. Now you can see you can dynamically drop this anywhere you want. You can key in 0 plus 0, 0 to get to the beginning. You could hit the Alt key like it says on the heads-up display. The Alt key will lock it to the beginning. Or you could just go beyond that where you see the start station at 0. You can simply left click. And there's place set beginning. It knows the start station of 0 plus 0, 0. Now the end we're using was 2 plus 0, 0. So we're going to give it that end station. Come back over here. End station. It locked on me, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to say 2 plus 0, 0, or 2 plus 50. Oh boy. And then lock it in. Now I can go ahead and place that. The next option it's looking for is a drop interval. And what that drop interval represents is how far do we want one template drop from the next template drop. On larger projects, 25 is a good number. On smaller alignments and stuff, we like to use a closer interval, and this one calls for 5. So we're going to use 5. And if we get this minimum transition before drop and after drop, we're going to use zeros on that. So let's go back over here. Interval, we'll key in 5. Hit the enter key to lock it in. You still have to left click to place it. And it's not going to cycle through and give me the other part, it looks like. Okay, so it put it in here. You can see our template drop is here. You can see it by these green lines representing end conditions. Okay, this is our slopes that are going out and tying into ground. You see the pavement in here. Got all these pavement lines in here. We've got our curb and gutter lines in here. Got all this stuff that's off that template. Okay, if you don't see the green, then go back out and make that surface active. Then you'll process your corridor again, and you'll see the green tie to ground, so we'll be good. So that's only if you just see the edge of pavements. Okay, so the tool's wanting to keep going, and that's fine because we want to add another template drop. But if, for some instance, you right-clicked or killed the tool, and I'm going to do that just to show you, we want to add this template. We want to add to this corridor. So if you've dropped it, all you simply have to do is come back to the corridor handles that you see out here. That's what these little green handles are. Or one of the 3D lines. If you see it highlighting, these are 3D lines from our 3D model being shown in. You can select it and get your heads-up display by hovering over it. And you're going to go out to this corridor creation tool. In here, you'll hit the pull down. You've got an option here to create a template drop. And that'll put you right back where we were. So we're right back with the template, wanting to know what template drop we're going with, what stationing, the whole works. So let's go back to our manual. And on the second one, which is step 15, we're going to pick ramp 4 pavement with shoulders. We're going to give it a 250 as a start station. Our end station is going to be 5. Intervals of 5. And if we get that minimum transition option, we'll hit 0. So let's go back to MicroStation. We want to change our template drop, so Alt down works. We want the shoulders, so we'll select it. Look at the preview, make sure you got your shoulders. Hit OK. Again, you have to accept it out on your screen. So we'll left click. And our start station was 2 plus 50. Lock that in and left click to accept it. And our end station was 5 plus 0, 0. Lock that in. And again, you have to left click to accept it. And our drop interval is the same as the other one at 5. So we'll go ahead and accept that. And you can see it place that other template drop in here. So now we got the 2 template drops, and you can see, and I'm finished with it, so I'm going to hit F4 to cancel the tool. You can see here's the first template drop, and these magenta, purple, whatever color lines are out here. That's your template drop. That controls everything in here on that first one. You can even edit or do any kind of manipulations to this. You can edit the template drop from here, which will bring up that template drop in a window, so you can change some information in here. You can also, with this, if you've changed a library template and you need to synchronize with it. So if you change the slope out there and you want to come back and you want to modify it here or sync it up with that library, that's the button you would use, would be synchronize with library. So there's some really good options in here for this. But this is your template. These are your templates. That's your second template drop, your first template drop. And this is your corridor. So the corridor has the green handles to it. Let's go back to our manual. And that brings us down to F4. I did that. And now F6. Okay, so we're going to hit our F6 key, and that's going to set up two views. It's going to give us our 2D view and a 3D view. Again, it gives you a hint here. If you don't see ink conditions, then the original ground terrain was not active. And that's these green lines out here, what we're talking about. Okay, so if you don't see the ink conditions, you might want to make sure that you make that terrain active. And then you'd have to just come out and select your corridor somewhere, get your heads-up display, and you would probably have to process the corridor so it sees it. Okay, so I'll give you an example. I'll uncheck that. Now it's not active anymore. And if I come back over here to my corridor and I process it, you'll see this is what it looks like when there's no active terrain. So we'll put it back. We want that active. We want our ink condition solving. So I'll set active terrain, but again, it doesn't change. So now what you got to do is try to get that green handle in there somewhere, which is right about here. And try to get that heads-up display to pop up, and then go to the process corridor again. And now there's an active surface out there, so these ground lines solve. So the next step was to go ahead and hit F6 to open up both our windows. So we got 2D default window 1. I hit the F6 key, and you can see over on the right side of my screen, we now have a 3D representation of our project. You can also see those ink conditions are really nice now. You can see that they're going up to solve, and down below we have a little ditch situation in this beginning area. So let's all tab back to the manual. Okay. It says the cut wall ditch back slope is set to 4:1. For this project, we want the ditch end slopes to be 1:1. So edit the two template drops with the shoulders in the DGN to adjust the left cut wall ditch slopes. Okay, to edit the template drop, we want to open the template library. Well, okay, there's a couple ways of doing this. We'll do it by the book right now. The book says we're going to open up the template library to do this. So we'll go back to MicroStation. We'll go back to our corridors, and we'll go to that Create Template. Okay, so it's open. We want to go to, we'll start with the curb and gutter. It was the first one. I'm going to make it the active one. The names are still on, but that's good because we want to change. Let me bring the manual back. We want to change that last point, this ditch back slope 1T. That's the point we're going to change it to. And in the manual, it gives us a minus, I don't know if you can see all that, but a -1:1 or a -100%. Don't type this string of text. You want to use one or the other, not this whole string. So we'll go back over. We'll go back to our template. We'll double click on this point, which brings up our point properties box. And we're talking about right here, that slope. We want to change this from -25% to 100%. Hit the apply button, and that didn't do what I wanted it to do. That definitely ain't what I want. -100%. Well, I guess that's what I want to do. Okay, so I'll apply that. I will close it. And then I'm going to go to the other one. Simply by double clicking on the shoulders, it brings up my next point list, and I want to change the same thing. Bring that point up, and we'll just make it -1:1. Hit the enter key and zoom out, and that's what it's going to do. So we're good. We'll apply, close. We'll close the template library. It's going to ask us to save. Yes, we want to save it. So we'll hit yes. Nothing happens, nothing at all, until we synchronize with the library, and I believe that's the next step. Down here it says, after changes have been made, synchronize the library with both of those ramp transitions, our templates, and then we can do that from the heads up. I kind of showed that a little bit ago, so let's do that. We'll go back over to MicroStation. We'll get on that first template drop, we'll select it, get our heads up display, and then go to synchronize with library. And you can watch the slopes back there, and you can see how it ties in. It goes right up there instead of sneaking way out. Now let's do the second one. So we'll hit that second purple magenta template drop, and we'll go to the fourth icon, synchronize with library. Hit it, and you can see what happens with your slopes again. So we're tying in real close here. Okay. Now we want to review the model and the effective design stages. Okay, so we're going to select the corridor by picking one of the handles, and then we're going to go to the corridor component quantities and get that pop-up. Okay, so corridor, heads up display. Sometimes you got to move it around a little bit. And reports, and that first icon is the corridor component quantities. So I can select it. It's going to bring up what's in this project in that corridor, and it's incorporated both template drops. So you've got all this information in here. You can see the cut, the fill. You've got your ag base, incidental ag base, your curb and gutters, your ground, concrete pavement, shoulder, sidewalk, retaining wall surface. You've got all this information in that report, and it tells you how much there is, your surface area, your volumes, how it's measuring it, what unit, and then the cost, and then the total cost, and an estimated total cost. It says key in some unit values, unit cost values, and then select report. So, okay, let's just say, let's go just put something in for the pavement. We'll just say this is 2. And then maybe get shoulder 1.5. Okay, sidewalks 0.75. We're just messing around. Once we get some values in there, and you hit the report button, which is the bottom left here, it's going to bring up one of our reports that we've seen in SS4. ORD has the same reports. And it goes to corridor modeling, and it defaults to this model component quantity. So you can get station ranges of your quantities on that. You also could pick some other different XSLs. See if any of them's got anything in it. Here's one here. This is a basic summary of everything. Kind of what you see in that box when you started. But this is the one that it defaults to. It probably got the best information. But that's a quantity dialog, quantity report. Okay. And we'll go ahead and close the report browser. So we're done with that. Now, one thing I want to talk about before I close it is the format options of the report. Okay, so right now I'm looking at stationing. It looks metric, so I could change that to reflect English stationing. Well, that's not right. And then, well, it is right. And then we use degrees, minutes, seconds for our directions and our angles. And then, let's see, and that's about it. So once I hit close, it doesn't change on the fly like it used to. So hit close now, you can see our stationing is the way it should be, and our numbers look the way they actually should be. So I'm going to close this report. We're done with it. So don't forget to go to the Tools, Format Options if things look a little out of the ordinary. So I'll close that, and I will close this option as well. Next thing I want to talk about, let's see, is our feature definition, which was once called design stage. They've changed it. So let's go back to MicroStation. I still have it highlighted, and that's the properties. Right now it's set to preliminary of 5, and that means this feature definition is just like the design stage of SS4, meaning that it's going to multiply your template drops. We chose 5 for a template drop, so every 5 feet there will be a template drop. But because it's set to this preliminary 5, it's going to multiply it by that 5, so we're actually getting 25-foot increments between our template drops. You can change that. Hit the pull down. We can go to final, and you'll see what happens. It tightens this up quite a bit. Now we're looking at 5 times 1, and that would be every 5 foot we're getting a template drop. You can see it represented on both screens, how tight those template drops are. And it's great for doing calculations towards the end. When we do end area volumes, you want it as tight as possible, less interpolation. But sometimes you want it at a preliminary because it runs a little faster at preliminary, especially on these large jobs. On a small job like this, it would be too bad to go ahead and leave it at that final and use it at the final. The other thing you don't notice, if you remember from SS4, these handles turn red when you're at final and green when you're at preliminary. But since when I changed it to final times 1, it stayed green. It's a temporary bug they're looking to fix that will switch that color like we want it to go to red so we can see it at the final design stage. But right now it's not that way, so you just have to go in here and look and verify that you're at the right feature definition. And I don't know why they changed the name. It doesn't make sense. Let's go back to our manual. So what's it wanting to do here is in View 2, the default 3D window uses a view rotation tool to rotate and view the 3D effects of Ramp 4. So let's do that. So I'm going to go over here to this View 2. I'm going to zoom around a little bit. I make it active. This is our 3D default. And what they're talking about is this view rotation tool. This one right here. Now, if you first time using this tool, when you select it, you've got options. We use all these different options, but right now it's set to dynamic, and I wanted it at dynamic. But what you'll see happening is in the middle of your window, you'll get this crosshair. This crosshair is very, very important for you to be able to navigate around this window. What you want to do is snap it to a piece of element out there, and snapping just by seeing that heads-up display, the little gold X is telling me I got a key point snap. Once you have that yellow X, you can let go of it. Of course, it didn't snap to it. Snap to it. There it goes. Now it's on there. If it's a big, thick crosshair, it didn't snap, and now it's a thin one. So now anywhere I select it, it's going to rotate about that pivot point. So I left-click and hold my mouse and just rotate around. And I can see, and I can even zoom into that. And right there, you're seeing where we got curb and gutter going into our shoulders. And you see what's going on with the retaining wall over there? Yeah, pretty cool stuff. But that is the biggest tip I can give you with this view, this rotate view. Take that crosshair, and wherever you want to see it, you move to it. Now you can also use your middle mouse button, I believe, to left click and hold down and move, and it will pan. But once you got that set to that, then it's just to left click and rotate, and then you can zoom in and out of that point. So that's your pivot point. That crosshair is very, very important. I think people have more problems with that than anything. But I do like that middle mouse button. You just select that wheel, push down on it, and it allows you to pan your view. Okay. Now, if I miss with this and come out here, it could get really convoluted. Now, it's a close project right here, but if you got a large project, I'm telling you, it will be a mess to try to get it centered and see what you're looking at. Okay, let's get back onto our manual. And it says, oh, now we're going to look at some dynamic cross sections. So in step 30, from the corridor ribbon, we're going to select the dynamic sections and then open up the cross-section view. Or, again, you can get it from your heads-up display. So you can, from your heads-up context-sensitive pop-up menu when you hover over the corridor head. So we'll do that. If you do it by the button, if you do it by this, then you're going to be prompted to locate the corridor or alignment, and then you're going to be prompted to select a view. Okay? So let's do that. I come over here. I'm done with the other window. I'll make window 2 or window 1 my active. And then I'm going to select this corridor. Again, I could go to corridors, and I could go to the dynamic sections, and I could do open cross-section view. But what I want to do is from here, just pick it up off of here, and then go to the second icon, and it's the only option under it, open cross-section model. When you pick it, it says select or open a view. Now, I could select any view out here, and it will put cross-sections in it. I would rather not. I would rather open up another window to look at my cross-sections, because I want to see my 2D, I want to see my 3D. Let's see what those cross-sections look like. And we like to pick this window 8, which you can see it populates this window 8, and then simply left-click in that window 8 area, and it's going to place our cross-sections at the very first station. So it goes to 0 plus 0, 0. Here's our cross-section for that window. Make it a little larger if I want. The existing ground is showing. It's showing our project in here. It's got our end condition solving on both sides. At the beginning, we have a ditch. Ditch is going out finding it. We go back to here, and there's no super elevation it's saying right now. So later on, we're going to talk about super elevation, and you'll see how the pavement slopes. But right now, it doesn't have it. The next part of this is placing temporary dimensions, which is kind of cool. Now I'm going to go down the project a little bit, and you can do that by using these little buttons, next station button to go next in the station. You'll also notice in the other two windows as I'm clicking here, you've got a blue magenta line representing where that cross section is at, that dynamic cross section. So you can see what's going on here. So there's that blue magenta in the 2D, blue magenta in the 3D. You can see that's exactly where this cross section is coming from at that 1 plus 0, 0. And you can see there's some cardinal points in here, some oddball stationing that gets picked up because, again, like I said before, when it places a template, it's going to place that template at the specified distance that you pick for, like, we picked 5 foot, but it also pick up any cardinal points that are out there, PCPT, any vertical points, any important points. It's going to pick it up and place out there. So here's 150. So we're at 150. I'm going to make this a little larger so I can do a little bit of dimensioning and zoom out a little bit. To dimension, what you want to do is just want to be in a blank area in the cross-section window, cross-section model, right-click and hold for a second. And then what you get out here is you get a place horizontal temporary line, and you get a place vertical temporary dimension line, and you get remove temporary dimensions. So let's do a horizontal. So if I come out here and I pick horizontal, it's fairly easy to operate. It will, on its own, as you move across, it will pick up points in the template. All you want to do is get to what you want to measure. Let's just measure the pavement. So if I go to this left, right before the curb and gutter, I can left click, and that's the start of that dimension. Now it wants the end of it. Well, I want to go to the other part of that pavement, the other end of it, and I'll left click. The last part of this is placing that dimension height in a location that you can see. So we're going to put it up top, and that looks good. Now it continues, and it wants to keep going. If you're finished, you can right click and get rid of it. And that places a horizontal dimension line. Now the cool thing about this is, as I navigate, you'll see, and there's other things that you could do, like get this window where you want it, and then in your view properties, you can do center on current offsets. And now when you go, it'll keep that right in the middle of your screen, and you can see your text out here, your dimension line. So again, that was under view properties, center on current offsets, very handy. Let's see what the notes say on the other part. Place horizontal. We did that. We data pointed EOPs. Okay. And this kind of looks like what they've got there. And again, it's noting that it places same dimensions on all cross sections. The blue line represents the location of the cross sections. And then the last part of this is something new. Let me go to a larger area. Let's see. Oh, another thing about this, if I come down and bring this, I can right click, hold, and locate station via data point, which will allow me to pick in a plan view where I want this to go. So if I click, and I look over here, down here at the end, I can see I got a lot of retaining wall. So I'm going to come over here. It says select plan view. I'm going to pick here. And then where do you want to see the station? What station do you want to see in your cross-section window? I'm going to pick right around here. And when you select it, you can see it brings it in here, and we've got this retaining wall, and you can see where the blue line is. Picked right where I want. Now, it picked exactly where I want, dynamically. So if I want a station that there's actually a template drop, I can bump it forward or back. Because if you pick one that's in between, you'll see that this happens. It's not solving in this area because it's in between stationing. Okay, so we want to go here. And the last part of this, I'm going to right click and do a vertical temporary dimension line, which is new. Maybe I want to see the start of this. Yeah, and then put the retaining wall. And then I'll come out here. Maybe I want to measure it from here. And then just tell it where you want that dimension location, and then right click. So you're talking 18 through there, and as you cycle through, you can see that dimension changes per cross section. So now we are able to do a horizontal, which we've always been able to do, but now a vertical. And then when you don't want these dimensions, you just simply right click in a blank area and you go to remove all temporary dimensions, and it removes them. Back to the manual. It says save settings on the design file, and the corridor stored as microstation data, and update the server copy. Okay, so we'll save, and we'll update server copy. And you can see it's updating the project-wise server. I'm done with this cross-section window, and we are finished with laying out the corridor for ramp 4.